Thanks for inquiring about the 5 secrets of winning when you buy your next home, which may be your first home as well. Secret number 1 is your mindset and strategy controls it all. Secret number 2 is you need to be in pounce mode. Secret number 3 is patience is a virtue. Secret number 4 is you must be decisive. And secret number 5 is you absolutely need the right negotiator. Buying a home is a little like dating. Don't go steady with the first one you see, with a must-have home. Keep your options open and expect to make offers that go nowhere. You'll be refused on most of the offers you make. It doesn't make any difference. The reason you'll be refused is because that's our strategy. If a desirable home were on the market at a bargain price, the market would only allow this for a very short time. It would either be bid up in price or snapped up immediately. No matter how good your agent is, if there are 15 buyers after the home, 14 are not going to get it. Pretty bad odds. So you have to create your own good buys, and then you are the only person on the planet who knows about the bargain's availability. Then your odds are very good. So how do you create your own deals? Here's the only winning strategy besides luck, and luck is wonderful but totally unreliable. The strategy is to make lowball offers on overpriced properties that have been on the market for a significant amount of time. That's all there is to it, at least from the 30,000 foot level. Why would a property be on the market overpriced for a long period of time? Well, there's lots of reasons, but one of them is that there's effectively a bidding war between agents who want to list a seller's house. And sometimes the seller, who may be a little naive about the whole process, may select the agent that quotes the biggest price, whether it's possible to get it or not. So there are many reasons, but that's a major one. I won't bore you with the details of how I effectively do this, and the details are proprietary anyway and unsuitable for this forum. But you can see now why most of your offers will be refused, because they're all going to be much lower than the asking price. And of course the exception to this is if we find a foolish seller who's put his home on the market at a below market price and we happen to luck out, well, we'll snap it up ourselves. Once we succeed in getting a response to one or more of your offers, we need to be in pounce mode. This means that you have to already be in pounce mode before you begin making offers. Well, what does this entail, you might ask? Pounce mode, what is it really? Well, what it is, it's a state of readiness where you have already gotten a reliable loan pre-approval from my trusted lender. You have proof of cash for me to show the seller that you really can close the sale. And you have the right intro letter with a photo, which I will write for you. There's an art to that letter, and it's made a lot of money for many of my buyers. The next success secret is patience. It's easy to become discouraged when your offers are not accepted, but that's the process. Most of them will be refused. And in the end, there's only going to be one where you and the seller are in mutual agreement after all. And there won't even be that one unless you're decisive. And that's another of the secrets to winning. So how do you become decisive? Well, number one, you'll begin to get a feel for the market as you evaluate and make offers on properties that look interesting to you. And I will do the same kind of market analysis for you that I would do for a seller wanting to put his home on the market. So by the time it comes to making an offer, you'll have sufficient information, and it's just a question of pulling the trigger. But you being decisive is not enough. You also need an agent who understands the urgency and insists on tying up all the loose ends. For example, I represented a buyer for a home listed 20% under market. It was $1 million price tag versus the actual value of $1.3 million. My buyer asked me if it really was 20% or more under market, and I showed him it was. We wrote up the offer Friday evening around 6:30. By 10:30 Saturday morning, the buyer had it nailed. I found out later on that another buyer had seen the low-price home and told his agent he wanted to write up an offer. The other agent said he'd take care of it Saturday morning because he had a date night evening out with his wife on Friday. Needless to say, he was a little too late. It's not enough for you to want the deal. Your agent has to be driven to win for you too. In another case, we were told by the listing agent, don't bother arranging a viewing of the property because they'd already accepted an offer. I told my buyer that we should put in the offer anyway, since the seller had raised her daughter there and we had provided a letter with a family photo and probably there was some emotional connection to the home that might work in our favor. I figured out from my earlier discussions with the listing agent that the accepted price was probably $1 million, and I knew for sure that the offer was all cash. So we offered $1,005,000 with 20% down. At 9 o'clock the next morning, I got the call. "Hi," the voice on the phone said. "This is," and I won't name the listing agent. "I got your offer, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I called the seller. And so she asked me if I had returned the signed contract to the winning buyer. And I said no. And she said, well, don't. Arrange a showing to see if the client likes the inside. And so the agent asked me, when can you see it? To make a long story short, we got this perfect home for my buyer simply because the agent for the $1 million all-cash buyer, yes, I was right, accepted offer was $1 million, failed to get his buyer the signed paperwork. He should have insisted on getting the signed contract when it was signed and not the next morning when it was convenient for the listing agent. And the fifth secret is to hire the right agent. It's free, so get the best. I have just shared some war stories with you, but they barely scratch the surface. I've gotten the sale for my buyers against big odds time and time again, and I have negotiated price discounts of more than $150,000 off the asking price. It does make a difference who negotiates for you, so choose wisely. It can make a huge money difference who negotiates to you. Otherwise, you can end up losing at the negotiating table. One more war story, in this case about a nice young lady from church who was hired by the sellers in this case to list their home. Nice young lady from church is not the best qualification for negotiations at the 1.7 million range, but that's who the seller hired because they liked her, I guess. The long and the short of it is that the buyer used an uncleared contingency they shouldn't even have applied to back out of the sale. The buyer intimidated the seller, costing the seller $100,000 in a lost sale. That uncleared contingency should have been cleared, and the seller needed to have better counsel about what was involved to really put the pedal to the metal and make the deal close. My point is that negotiation is the name of the game. However, no negotiation training is required to obtain a real estate license. Isn't that amazing? So many agents don't bother to learn anything about it. They just kind of wing it, and however it turns out is how it turns out. If the agent also has only had a license for 6 to 10 years, this inexperience can cost you a lot of money. So my advice is this. Friends are friends, but business requires clear-eyed expertise. This comes from training and experience. Unless you want to pay for expensive on-the-job training for your friend, go for the very best negotiator that you can find. After all, unlike hiring the best lawyer you can find, who may be $1,700 or more an hour compared to a more, quote, normal $450 an hour, it costs you nothing to have the best negotiator on your side. By the way, if you have to, or if you should, fire your friend, you may lose your buy and lose the friend too. Not a good combination. So I think you've seen where the big money is for you. It's in the price and terms negotiated for you. However, there is one more, smaller, advantage to working with my company, Hunter Broker, along with the negotiation. Hunter Broker at present offers a buyer cashback for qualifying buyers. This program may be terminated with no prior notice, but it is in effect right now. The buyer cashback is currently 1% of the purchase price. That is over $6,000 on the median $610,000 single-family home in Orange County. This will easily cover your closing costs with enough left over to share with the person who introduced you to me, if that applies. Treat those people right. They gave you a big gift of a lot of cash. Well, that's probably more than you ever wanted to know about getting the best possible deal when you buy a home, but it is a big investment for you. So thanks for listening, and call me, Terry Hunter, 949-278-1595 with any questions or comments. Thanks again for listening, and I look forward to talking to you in person.